What if I told you the infection isn't just a plague, but a reflection of Hallownest's own buried guilts and griefs? There was once a kingdom known as Hallownest, a vast and exuberant land, a kingdom of many species of bugs. It was a land that came together in harmony through the reigns of religion, the followers of the Pale King, the Radiants, or even those who were followers of Un. But one thing was made very clear. The gift of sentience was gifted to many of the lesser bugs who lived away in the burrows of Hallownest. That sentience gifted from the Pale King. You've heard this story many times over, so I'll just keep it short. The gift of sentience for many of the species of Hallownest was soon to be followed by chaos, an infection. The Radiance was fed up with the people forgetting about them. Eventually, as they were forgotten, the littlesome bugs who had the faintest memories of them ended up dreaming about them. The infection was then born. But what if I told you the infection is much, much deeper than this? What if I told you that this infection isn't just some sponge-born plague, but one that carves out the bug's guilts and griefs and manifests itself into the bug's minds? That's what we will discuss today. Now, I've come to understand that the infection has been pretty expounded upon up until this point. The fan explanations and fan wiki giving us pretty much everything we need to know about it, but I want to give my own 2 cents on it anyways. For this video, I want to give my own personal theory on the disturbing meanings behind what the game's infection really is. A deep dive into the infection, if you will. I hope this video can make you think about the infection in a different light and maybe give you a new perspective of the world of Hollow Knight. If that sounds something like you may enjoy, then why not like and subscribe? I make analysis-based content like this for a ton of different games and would love to have you. But with all of that finally out of the way, let's deep dive into the infection. I want to break this theory/analysis into 4 different section-off topics. 4 main parts that will all help this analysis turn into something bigger. As I've mentioned in the beginning, I feel as though the infection that runs rampant through Hallownest is much deeper than we are made to believe. These 4 sections help show that off. The first section we're going to talk about is the idea of trauma. Now, what does trauma mean? Essentially, it's a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. As we come to know, there's a lot of examples of this throughout the Hollow Knight, but a couple examples in particular are shown through the infection. Let's take a look at the first example of this, the broken vessel. The broken vessel is more than a failed experiment, it's a child. One of the Pale King's discarded creations thrown aside like many others into the abyss. This was supposed to be a savior, a vessel meant to contain the radiance and stop the infection, but it wasn't good enough, as the Pale King's actions show that. It was abandoned, left to rot. That's not just tragic, it's traumatic. And then when you encounter it, it lashes out in pain. Its movements are all erratic and desperate, like it's still trying to prove something. The infection here doesn't just consume the broken vessel, it shows the traumatic life the vessel once lived. Once again, its buried guilts and griefs are shown through the infection. It's not a monster. It's a memory still hurting. Another example of trauma I feel as though was shown through the infection was Myla, the friendly bug in Crystal Peak who slowly fell into the infection's laps. As we first meet Myla, she was pretty happy, singing and just mining away as she usually does. But as we progress through the story and eventually come back, she will sing less and less. Eventually, she's even lost to the infection and you must put her down. This infection didn't just get to her for no reason, it came to her because her trauma-filled life ended up being the foregoer to the infection. Her isolation to the world and her cryptic lyrics kind of being a foresight to her eventually succumbing to the infection, which is the reason the infection took over her mind in the first place, the trauma. These 2 characters, the broken vessel and Myla, are real showings of the infection feeding off traumatized beings in Hollow Knight. The infection is amplified through experiences like this. Trauma is all throughout Hollow Knight, but this next section feeds right off of it and sheds light on the infection even more. Section 2 is the idea of hallucination, as it feeds off the idea of trauma and is another angle to attack the infection with. I believe that hallucination, which is an experience involving the apparent perception of something not present, is a fairly common when evaluating the infection's true motives. Let's go over some examples. Pretty often seen examples are a lot of the areas within the game. Places like the Deep Nest is a great example of it, as it's an area with a lot of ambient sounds that may not fully be there. And as you know, the area is crawling with creatures who are infected. Along with this, it's important to also know the disoriented layout of the Deep Nest as well. It's a very tight-knit area that loops on itself, hinting at a very hallucinogenic surrounding. You feel kinda trapped in this area. If the ambient surroundings, suffocating layout, or the crawling enemies that are infected isn't enough to show the idea of hallucinations with the infection, well, why not look no further than one of the bosses of the Deep Nest, the Nosk. I remember first encountering the Nosk. When you see this mirror image of the night for the first time, I was literally contemplating what was going on. It's the perfect match to fit this idea of hallucination within the infection. And of course, that mirror image turned out to be the Nosk. Mimics the shape of other creatures to lure prey to its lair. In the deepest darkness, there are beasts who wear faces stolen from your memories and pluck at the strings in your heart. Know yourself, and stay strong. Just another layer of why this infection is much deeper than we kind of realized, especially given all the hinted themes of trauma and hallucination we have seen so far. Hallucinations are a very underrated part of the telling of the story. The infection has so many layers that you can kind of see branch off into everything involving the world of Hollow Knight. And that's not even yet to mention areas like the dream realm. These areas are cognitions where we can freely roam around in, kind of uncovering parts of certain characters and areas that then can manifest themselves into real-world hallucinations. And of course, the biggest example is that of the Radiance. The infection essentially started by the acts of the Radiance making people see hallucinations in their dreams, kind of making them remember something that isn't physically there. Those are some of my favorite examples of hallucination, but now I want to head into the third section. Let's go. The third section we are going to talk about is the idea of dissociation. Dissociation is a mental process where individuals experience a disconnection from their thoughts, feelings, memories, or some sense of identity. It can manifest as a sense of being detached from oneself or the world, often described as feeling like a dream or an outside observer. The idea of dissociation, I think, is a very important part of really understanding the infection because the people who essentially forced this infection on us, the Pale King and the Dreamers, all dissociated themselves, specifically the Pale King, from the world when they understood what really transpired. From even the beginning of the infection until now, the infection started with this sort of dissociated idea. Even the Radiance, they literally caused the infection because she was being dissociated from the worship of people, and now the infected bugs are also dissociated from the non-infected. It's like a full cycle. We can even go back to someone like the Broken Vessel, traumatized in an area that's very hallucination-based in the ancient Basin, and on top of that they just got dissociated from the rest of society, left to die by the hands of your own father. The infection has so many intricate ways it's able to spread. I feel as though all three of these sections can each be their own interpretation of the infection and not a string together like how I'm making it seem, but still, like, there's so many different ways you can interpret the idea of the infection. But I still have one more idea left in mind, one that weaves all of these four together into something that kinda just makes more sense. Last and certainly not least for our four sections is behavioral contagion. Behavioral contagion refers to the tendency for individuals to adopt or repeat a behavior after observing it in others. And to me, this final section is the best when understanding the infection because it confirms the other sections and themes we've covered so far. Trauma, hallucinations, and dissociation. The infection is a culmination of these things and the behavioral contagion proves that. The infection flows from one bug to another, like it's influenced, the same way behavioral contagion works, an influence to one group to another. All of the infected, no matter who you are or why you got infected, all in some way dealt with this cycle of four sections. The infected dealt with trauma, dealt with hallucinations and dissociation, and all fall in line together. The next time you see an infected roaming around Hollow Nest, think about how deep this infection really runs, and how it shapes their guilts and griefs of Hollow Knight's real world. I hope you guys enjoyed this different perspective I had on the idea of the infection. I try to give as many new angles as possible and I like the way it turned out. If there's something that I might have missed on that you might have noticed about the infection, then let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear what you have to say. And let me know what you think of this infected deep dive as well. I also wanted to say thank you to all the people who supported my most recent video. I didn't in a million years think I'd somehow get 4,000 people to watch my video, but here we are. I'm nowhere near special with editing or script writing or anything like that. I just love games and having discussions about them. Love talking to all you guys who commented or subscribed. It really means the world. And also, if you guys have any other games you want me to play and discuss next, then let me know in the comments as well. But that's all for me. Thank you everyone for watching, and goodbye.